Imagine you spend decades, right, just building this massive, really impressive stockpile of firewood. I mean, you've sacrificed weekends for it, you've meticulously planned for it, you've stacked it perfectly in the shed.
Yeah, you're totally ready for the worst winter imaginable.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
completely prepared for the harsh winter. But then when winter finally hits and the temperature actually drops, you're just sitting there in your living room shivering and absolutely terrified to actually light a match.
Right, because, I mean, the moment you strike that match, the stockpile gets a little bit smaller. And that fear of running out just completely paralyzes you from actually enjoying the warmth you spend your whole life preparing for.
It really does. And if you are listening to this right now, there's a very good chance you are sitting next to your own pile of firewood.
Mm.
You know, you have spent a significant portion of your life being a responsible adult.
Doing all the things you're supposed to do.
Right. You know how to save, you know how to invest, you know how to delay gratification. But here is the dilemma we are exploring for you today. What happens when you realize you have absolutely no idea how to actually spend that money without feeling a deep sense of guilt or even terror?
It's a huge psychological hurdle.
It really is. And today's deep dive is built on this incredibly insightful article by Roberta Hill. It's titled, Financing a Life of Travel After 70. And it was published in her Wander After 70 newsletter.
Such a great piece.
Yeah, and alongside her article, she provided this fantastic infographic detailing 10 highly specific ChatGPT prompts she designed to analyze her retirement and travel plans.
And the mission for our deep dive today is to really look at her experience and explore how artificial intelligence can be used in a completely new way. We're not talking about a robot stock picker here.
Right, definitely not that.
No, we're talking about using AI as an objective thinking partner, like a tool to help you align your money with the life you actually want to live.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the way this whole thing started for Roberta is, well, it's universally relatable. It wasn't some grand meeting in a mahogany boardroom with wealth managers.
No, it was just a terribly rainy weekend.
Exactly. She was stuck inside, and she decided to do something that most of us chronically postpone. She sat down to look at her financial situation, and not just that quick, surface-level glance at an investment statement where you just, make sure the line is generally pointing up.
Right, or just mechanically filing the annual tax return.
Yeah. She wanted to look at the real numbers. She wanted to really see where she stood.
And she took it a step further than just adding up her accounts. She started asking the fundamental questions about the architecture of her life, like, is the retirement portfolio actually solid? What is our real monthly burn rate?
The scary question.
The very scary questions. But the most critical question she tackled was how much of their spending was tied to the life they had actively chosen to live, which, for her, heavily involves travel.
And as she started laying all of this out, she hit a wall that I think so many of us hit. She realized that we tend to put our lives into these separate, tidy little boxes.
Oh, absolutely. We compartmentalize everything.
We do. We have a spreadsheet for the travel budget over here. We have a separate file folder for retirement planning and investment withdrawals over there.
And then completely separate from the financial math, we have these abstract, nagging worries, right? Things about our health, our mobility, how many highly active years we actually have left.
Right, and we treat those things as if they are totally isolated variables. But Roberta realized they are a deeply interconnected ecosystem. A travel budget cannot be separated from retirement planning.
No, and investment withdrawals cannot be separated from questions about your knees and your lower back.
Exactly. Looking at any one piece on its own gives you a distorted, incomplete picture. But my instinct here, though, is to kind of defend the traditional approach.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, when she talks about this fear of spending the shivering in front of the firewood, isn't it entirely logical to want to hoard for the unknown? I mean, we don't know how long we're going to live. We don't know if we'll need round-the-clock medical care.
That's the classic anxiety, yeah.
Right. Society tells us to prepare for the worst. So why is it considered a psychological hurdle to just keep saving?
Well, what's fascinating here is that you are identifying the exact friction point. For decades, society rewards you for accumulation. I mean, every financial message you receive from the time you open your first bank account is about growing the pile, delaying gratification, being responsible.
You literally build an entire identity around being a diligent saver.
Exactly. And when you finally reach retirement, the mathematical face changes, but your identity does not automatically update to match it. The transition requires abandoning a mindset of mathematical accumulation, just making the number on the screen bigger.
Right, chasing the high score.
Yeah. And adopting a mindset of lifestyle application, that means actively converting those dollars into the experiences, the comfort, and the security they were meant to buy in the first place.
It's like you forget what the money was actually for. I mean, consider your own habits for a second. Are you saving just to save? Do you actually know what those spare dollars sitting in your account are specifically designated to do?
That's the real shift. Roberta realized she was no longer asking financial questions. She was asking life questions disguised as math.
Disguised as math. I love that. Like, could she keep saying yes to the experiences that matter most? Could she choose the upgraded seat or the nicer hotel when traveling without feeling guilty?
Or, should she spend money on big trips while she's healthy enough to endure a long flight? Or should she save it for some vague, unknown emergency in 15 years?
And because a traditional spreadsheet cannot answer those emotional questions about lifestyle, she realized she didn't need a calculator. She needed a sounding board.
She needed something that could look at all those separate boxes, the health, travel, taxes, investments, and actually connect the dots. So instead of opening Microsoft Excel, she opened ChatGPT.
Which is such a wild pivot for retirement planning.
It is. She started feeding it detailed information about her investments, her retirement savings, and her income streams. And she began testing highly specific, layered scenarios.
Yeah, she didn't just ask a generic question like, am I okay? She asked the AI, what happens if I withdraw $15,000 a year from our equity for the next 3 years to fund travel?
And then she layered it.
Right. She said, and then what if I reduce that amount to $10,000 a year for the next several years after that? And then what if I drop it down to $5,000 when I'm well into my 80s?
She essentially built a dynamic timeline of her future life and asked the machine to stress test the logic of it.
But, I mean, my instinct here is to just fire up Excel. If I know my withdrawal rate and my expected return, it's just math. I drag the cell down to project the next 20 years and I'm done. Why introduce artificial intelligence into something that a basic formula can solve?
Because a spreadsheet is like a compass, right? It tells you exactly which way is north, but that is literally all it does. It gives you a linear, static calculation. If you subtract X from Y, you get Z.
It doesn't know anything outside of the formula.
Exactly. An AI, specifically a large language model, acts more like a navigator sitting in the passenger seat. You tell it you want to go north, and it asks if you want the scenic route, warns you about upcoming tolls, and asks if you need to stop for gas.
That makes a lot of sense.
Under the hood, these models use probability to map relationships between concepts. A spreadsheet doesn't know that travel at 75 involves completely different physical constraints than travel at 85, but the AI understands the conceptual relationship between aging, healthcare costs, travel fatigue, and withdrawal rates.
Oh, wow. So it's looking at the human element.
Yes. When she asked about withdrawing cash for a trip, the AI didn't just subtract $15,000. It prompted a dialogue about where the money should come from, the tax implications on her portfolio, and the lifestyle trade-offs of doing it now versus later.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. She wasn't looking for the AI to give her a reassuring pat on the back. She explicitly states she wasn't hoping a machine would tell her everything was fine.
Right, she wanted a brutal reality check.
But before we get into exactly how she did that with the prompts, we really have to address the massive neon warning sign she puts in her article, the ultimate caveat emptor regarding this technology.
This is so important. Artificial intelligence is a first-pass thinking partner. It is not a fiduciary. That is a crucial distinction.
Right, because a fiduciary has a legal obligation.
Exactly. A fiduciary is a professional who is legally bound to act in your best financial interest and who takes professional responsibility for the advice they give you. The AI cannot do that. It cannot and should not replace a qualified financial planner, an accountant, a tax specialist, or an investment advisor.
I mean, ChatGPT doesn't know the specific nuances of your local municipality's tax regulations. It doesn't know the fine print of your specific pension plan or how your government benefits interact or how your estate is legally structured.
And crucially, it cannot know the emotional weight of your decisions unless you explicitly type that emotional weight into the prompt.
Right. Can't read your mind.
No. The AI might calculate that selling a specific asset is the most mathematically efficient move for your tax bracket, but it doesn't know that that asset is, say, a family cabin holding 4 generations of sentimental value.
Oh, that's a great example.
It only knows the parameters you provide. The quality of the insight you extract from an AI is entirely dependent on the depth and quality of the context you feed it.
Garbage in, garbage out. Which brings us perfectly to the core of her methodology. She didn't just write a conceptual piece about this. She documented the exact prompts she used to feed the AI that context.
The 10 prompts.
Yes, she created an infographic with 10 specific ChatGPT prompts designed to analyze retirement and travel plans. And looking at these prompts, you can see a brilliant logical progression. She moves the conversation from basic math to deep, meaningful life planning.
We can actually break these 10 prompts down into 3 distinct categories. The first category is the reality checks. This is where you establish a baseline of truth. And it starts with prompt 1, titled, "Am I seeing my situation clearly?"
And the wording she uses is just fascinating. She writes, "I am retired and would like you to act as an objective financial thinking partner. Please identify strengths, risks, assumptions I may be overlooking. Do not simply reassure me. Challenge my assumptions where appropriate."
I love that.
Right? She is literally instructing the AI to take the kid gloves off.
You have to do that. You have to explicitly tell these models not to be sycophants. By default, they often just want to be helpful and agreeable. By adding, "challenge my assumptions," she forces the AI to actively look for the holes in her logic.
This is smart.
And then prompt 2 in this category gets highly practical. It's, "How are my investments working?" She notes that many people understand their investments in isolation, like they know they own this mutual fund or that particular tech stock, but they struggle to see how the entire puzzle fits together.
And she points out a great workflow tip here, too. You don't have to sit there manually typing out every single number from your brokerage statement.
Nobody wants to do that.
No. You can take your actual statements, redact your account numbers, and personal identifying information to protect your privacy, of course, and upload those PDFs right into the chat. The AI can ingest all that data instantly.
And once it has that data, you ask it to identify concentration risks. To put that simply, it spots if you have accidentally put way too many of your eggs in one basket.
Like overlapping funds.
Exactly. You might think you are diversified because you own 5 different mutual funds, but the AI can look at the underlying holdings and point out that all 5 funds are heavily invested in the exact same software company. It translates complex portfolio overlap into plain English.
That is incredibly useful. Rounding out these reality checks is prompt 8, which she calls create a retirement stress test. Most financial plans look totally fine when the sun is shining and the market is up, but real life is messy.
Oh, yeah. Very messy.
This prompt asks the AI to test the plan against real-world chaos.
Let's walk through how a user might actually experience this stress test. You tell the AI to simulate a scenario where inflation suddenly spikes by 4%, the stock market drops by 20% in a single year, and you simultaneously get hit with a massive, unexpected medical expense.
The ultimate bad year.
Right. And the AI then recalibrates your entire timeline. It shows you exactly when your cash reserves would run dry, which assets you would be forced to sell at a loss, and how your travel budget would have to shrink to survive the storm.
It's bracing, but necessary.
It forces you to confront the worst-case scenario on a screen rather than just harboring vague anxiety about it in your head.
And because human beings are notoriously terrible at assessing vague risks, the next phase of her prompts is what I would call the perspective shifters. And prompt 7 is the perfect bridge into this territory. It's titled, "Am I worrying about the right things?"
Human nature is deeply flawed when it comes to risk assessment. We fear highly dramatic, unlikely events like a plane crashing, while completely ignoring slow, creeping risks like heart disease.
We are so bad at it.
Financially, it's the same. We obsess over a total stock market collapse, but we ignore the silent thief of inflation eroding our purchasing power, or the very real risk of our own physical mobility declining. Prompt 7 asks the AI to look at the financial picture and explicitly identify which risks the user is overestimating and which ones they are underestimating.
It takes you out of a state of free-floating anxiety and channels that energy into specific, actionable planning. Like it might tell you to stop losing sleep over a minor market correction and start paying serious attention to long-term care insurance.
That is incredibly practical advice.
It really is. But the third category of prompts is where the real paradigm shift happens. These are the lifestyle prompts. And prompt 5 is the one that completely stopped me in my tracks. It is titled, "When should I spend more?"
Asking a financial tool when you should spend more money is the exact inverse of how almost everyone approaches retirement planning.
It flips the entire script. The prompt asks the AI to explore the benefits of spending more money now while you can actually enjoy it. She writes that most retirees only ask if they can afford to spend money. Very few ask if they can afford not to.
That is a profound distinction.
Let's stop and really think about the sheer cost of missed experiences. You have this brief, precious window in early retirement where you finally have free time, combined with the physical health and mobility to actually travel, to hike, to endure a 12-hour flight.
Consider the difference between hiking Machu Picchu at 65 versus trying to do it at 85.
Right. If you sit on your money during that golden window at 65 because you are terrified of running out, you might find yourself at 85 with a massive untouched bank account, but lacking the physical ability to use it for the things you spent your whole life dreaming about. The money becomes useless for its original intended purpose.
And this is where the AI acting as a thinking partner really shines. It pairs this concept perfectly with prompt 6, which is, what happens if I slow down? This provides the realistic mathematical counterweight to spending more now.
Okay, how so?
It asks the AI to project how aging, changing health, or simply a shifting interest in international travel might naturally reduce your spending later in life. It builds in the highly logical assumption that you will not require a $15,000 annual travel budget when you are 88 years old. You might just want to sit in the garden or visit local family.
That makes total sense. Knowing that your spending will naturally decrease later provides the mathematical permission to enjoy your life heavily at 74.
Exactly.
You don't need a flat withdrawal rate until you die. You need a front-loaded lifestyle budget. Which leads us to the grand finale of her prompts, the ones that tie this entire philosophy together.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, prompts 9 and 10 are where the true value of this entire exercise comes into focus. Prompt 9 is called the real question.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
It asks the AI to evaluate whether your current financial strategy actually supports your stated life priorities. Roberta notes that the aggressive, frugal saving habits that made you highly successful at 45 or 55 might actually be actively harming your quality of life at 74.
Because the goal changed.
Right. The strategy that built the wealth is not the strategy required to enjoy it.
And then we reach prompt 10. She literally calls it the Roberta question. This is her masterpiece. I want to read the prompt exactly as she wrote it. She says, I am in my mid-70s and value travel, experiences, comfort, curiosity, and maintaining my independence. Based on the information provided, what would you tell someone in my position if the goal is not to die with the largest portfolio possible, but to make thoughtful use of the years ahead?
Not to die with the largest portfolio possible. That single line completely redefines the concept of financial success.
It really does.
The Roberta question beautifully encapsulates the ultimate goal. It shifts the discussion entirely away from wealth management and firmly into life management. By giving the AI those specific values, the curiosity, comfort, independence, the machine is no longer calculating returns. It is optimizing for human flourishing.
So what does this all mean? When Roberta finished this rainy afternoon exercise, she noted that she felt surprisingly optimistic. She didn't magically find a hidden offshore bank account she forgot about.
No, the math didn't change.
Right. The optimism came from having clarity. The paralyzing fear of the unknown was replaced by the confidence of seeing her reality actually mapped out.
She realized something profound. Proper planning does not restrict your possibilities. When done correctly, planning actually expands your possibilities. It draws a clear, undeniable line between what is genuinely affordable and what is merely feared.
The true value of ChatGPT for Roberta wasn't that it spit out a definitive yes or no answer to her travel plans. It was that the conversation inspired her to ask a better next question.
It facilitated a breakthrough.
Exactly. It helped her clean up her scenarios so she could clearly see how her money connects to the life she still wants to live. You don't want to preserve every single dollar simply because you are paralyzed by the fear of spending. But you also don't want to spend carelessly pretending that the future doesn't exist.
It's all about balance.
Finding that thoughtful middle ground between fear and foolishness is the ultimate goal of lifestyle planning. It's about ensuring your money works for you, rather than you continuing to work for your money long after you have officially retired.
It requires looking at the holistic picture.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to think about that stockpile of firewood we talked about at the very beginning. You've spent decades chopping the wood, you've stacked it high in the shed.
And the winter is finally here.
Are you going to sit in the cold, staring at the pile, shivering because you want to keep the stack perfect? Or are you going to use it to build a fire that actually keeps you warm?
Think about the Roberta question in the context of your own life today or right now. If you gathered up your current daily spending habits, your savings rate, and your calendar, and you fed all of that data into an AI today, what would it deduce about you?
That's a challenging thought.
Would it conclude that your primary goal is to live a rich, experience-filled life? Or would it conclude that your only goal is simply to die with the highest possible high score in your bank account?